Okay, so I have a drywall issue here, and they say that the water problem has resolved itself, or they have resolved it themselves. All I gotta do is clean up the drywall problem. I'm gonna find out whether it is an issue with the drywall itself, or I can just mud it. This one too, this is a little more dramatic. Looks like there's less support. I'll be likely cutting out pieces of it to see how extensive the damage is. Alright, I'm up on the ladder. I'm going to check this. I got my eye protection. I've got my handy multi-tool. Any knife or any kind of like knife like this, or even, God forbid, a knife from one of these. This is ideal, but you can do it with any cutting implement. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove what's up here. I wanted to put on a mask, but I can't narrate with the mask on, so definitely recommend that because it's really gross what we got up here. Okay, so good thing is the rot isn't that extensive in this spot. It is, however, on this spot. So the tape failed. Water damage does that. Okay. Yep, so the water made it through a good amount of the drywall. Yep. Good thing is it's still roughly intact. So you can do something about this. The patch isn't too bad. You still want to check for moisture. That is going to be the essential part here. Just depends on the extent at which it's rotted. This is mud. This is like wet mud that got ruined. It's hard to tell if this is moist right now just by feeling it, but generally if it's too moist you can feel it. And at some point this failed. Alright, so it's feeling a little damp. That feels moist to me. So it kind of has that cold feel to it when you put your fingers on it. So this cannot be, short of a patch, this can't be painted right away. You want this to dry out. This is wet. So you can let it air out. What was preventing it from drying is the stuff on top of it. This old paint and spackle. Once you get past that layer, you can get the cardboard-esque material underneath there to aerate itself. It might take a couple days, it might take weeks. Just check it periodically with the moisture meter. Use the poking feature to see if you can get it to beep. I'm gonna go up a little higher here and just start peeling. Yep, I'm gonna peel this off. Okay. So this is extremely moist paint. I really don't want to be breathing this in because this is probably moldy. Alright, so it's made it into the wooden trim. That's not a good sign. This metal strip is completely dead. Not essential, but as long as a good portion of it is covering where you need it to shape, like for this, as long as it's on the spot, you can put mud around it and sort of reattach it. But this is very moist. So the neat part is it's up here in the lake. And I'm sure the sun bakes it during the day. This is gonna take, it's gonna take a couple days to dry for sure. Let me zoom, let me give you a wider angle here. But it's mainly down here. This stuff up here is kind of moist, but this is the moisture right here. This is the extent of it. So you can stick a fan in here. I've got one down there actually. I can just do that. Oh, definitely breathing in that mold. I can smell it. So anyways, I'm gonna get out of the little sun thing, little skylight, and I am going to chip away all of the pieces here that it's sagging at. Now the good thing is it's what's sagging is chunks of drywall and paint, not the core part of the drywall itself. So you can get away with this by using cover stain. You want to cover stain it first. I'll go over that. You want to cover stain it first. That's an oil-based primer. And then once that's dried and sealed out, usually a day or two, put mud on top of that. So you're sealing out the moisture issue and then building on top of it. So this might have to be screwed up into it or nailed up into it to make it flush. Because this whole piece is sort of sagging out. There's nothing attaching it other than paint and old mud. Yep, and I'm just gonna keep going at this until it's done. I'll be back when I have got the finished scraping it. Okay, I cleaned it up as good as the paint would let me go. I took it until it started resisting me, and there's a bit up there I still gotta get, but for the most part this is all pretty good. The drywall seems like it's pretty dry underneath there, and I took the sharp point of this, you can use a knife, and I just went around and stabbed it to see where it was weak. So a good spot to do it is this, like the wet spots. You really want to get it in the wet spots. So I hit it earlier and it cracked. It created this ginormous cracked thing. So that's soft. If we can get that to harden, that's the best scenario, but it needs a little bit more aeration. So I'm giving it some extra holes, space for it to dry out faster. But it also shows me where the weak points are. So if I'm stabbing here, and it does, and I just did this one spot and the whole thing chipped out. So normally you should be able to stab drywall and it doesn't move, and it's not soft, brittle. You know, it's not soft. So if you're getting nothing coming off doing this, that means it's good drywall. Now, this isn't the best way to do it, but it's certainly it's the easiest way to do it, but it also gives you a pretty solid foundation. Now, you're still gonna want to put your oil-based primer over top of it to seal it out once it's done. It's a sealing. It's not meant. It doesn't need to resist anything else. You could coat the whole ceiling with mud like you do with popcorn sealing, and it'd be fine. Just make sure the drywall isn't sagging. All right, I'm gonna go do the bedroom now. All right, I'm here in the bedroom, up on the ladder. Let's see. So it looks like just the paint is coming up. Now this is a popcorn ceiling, so it's gonna be a little more of a challenge, but it feels dry, so far at least. And it is really, really brittle, hard. It feels solid, like nothing really has failed. Just the paint and the popcorn ceiling, which is heavy. Sometimes it's hard to kind of gauge how heavy paint is until you put it in a bag and you find out, damn, this stuff, even on a like square foot area, is heavy. It's super heavy. So imagine that being on a ceiling. It's gonna weigh it down. It's gonna crack, it's gonna peel off because it can't hold its own weight up. So we're just speeding the process up here and letting it come off. And so far, this is not gonna be a huge, nothing crazy like the ceiling light, or the sunlight ceiling thing, whatever they're called. Sorry. Skylight, there we go. Okay, so I can see the seam where it was originally mudded. That's not moist, so this one's gonna be easy. It's probably gonna need another screw, but I don't know, the whole ceiling is sagging in the spot. I don't think it's gonna need something crazy. Nope, the whole ceiling's sagging. Okay, so I'm gonna put some screws up there to try and get it to go back up, so to speak. And hopefully not break the drywall in the process. But the drywall's in good shape. It's had time to dry up, unlike the other one. Yeah, it's all coming up very easy. So yeah, when the oil-based primer goes up here, the cover stain, it's going to create a nice area for paint to stick to on top of what's already here. We're looking good. All right. So I've secured the boards to, or the drywall boards to the wood struts, the studs in the wall, and this is important. Don't cheap out like these builders did and use nails. They pop out over time. Make some small holes and put in screws. Screws will save you a lot of a headache if it decides to pop back out, because either the mud or whatever decides it doesn't want to hold it in place. You can even skip fiber tape or other things to make it go smoothly, because usually a lot of drywallers they'll use the fiber tape and the mud to hold it up. It's not going to hold it up long term. It's gonna sag, it's gonna break, it's gonna crack, and eventually you'll just have to replace the drywall again. Just take a couple of minutes and put in actual screws, and that shit ain't going nowhere. So then you're gonna definitely want to put in something flexible. I mean, mud is not the best option here, but use caulk along the edges wherever you can. Get that all caulked up. Put in some high flex mud or spackle, something that isn't gonna crack over time, like that pink DAP stuff that you can get, and then put fiber tape over top of it and then mud it, and to smooth out your finish, with the mud, or even the spackle if you want. You don't have to buy two if you don't want to, but the best thing to do here is to make sure that it is secured to whatever you're doing. So normally you'd put a new board up here, you put them, screw them in, and you deal with it that way. But there's a lot more complicated things going on here, so this is the quick and easy simple fix. Fill your holes with as much as you can get in there without making it heavy. The key here is to go with lightweight, something lightweight that isn't going to sag or dip. Like this is probably going to need a new piece of drywall in it. But that is going to just be secured to this, what's here. This is what I got going on in the bedroom. So I had to cut out this piece, and I just pushed this one up and put screws in it and tightened it up into the spot. There's a lot of support on this side, but none over here, so I had to cut it out. And got a chunk of drywall for it. Got some caulk up in these cracks, and I'm just gonna let that dry. And I'm gonna hit it with this stuff. It's low odor, oil-based. It'll get rid of some of the rot, and it'll give the spackle something to grab onto instead of just sitting on top of it, and when you paint over it, it just sort of sits in a pocket. So, yep. All right, I made it a little more square shape. I don't think this is gonna fit in the first try, but usually you can get it to shave it in. Let's see. Very close. Spent a lot of time shaving this. Oh, we're close. We're super close. Oh, caught it. Okay. So it almost fits. There's just a little bump there I gotta get rid of. All right, I got it locked in. So I put the screws up past the surface. So there's a little hole on each screw. And then taking another screw, getting it in there, and I'm lowering this, so I was pushing it way up in there. See how that nail pops, or that screw pops a little bit? And then I'm taking this and I'm pulling the drywall back down so you have a nice flush surface, because the drywall here is sagging a bit. So I want to match the height. You don't want that lip there, that'll show up. So you want to spend a good amount of time messing with it, trying to get these screws in the right height. And they're gonna pop out over time, so give it some time, but you're gonna probably eventually still end up with some sag in spots you don't want. And the best solution to that is, the best solution to that is an orbital. You just smooth that edge as much as you can, and then when you put the mud on, you're gonna wanna go put a little hill over top of it to smooth the difference between them. But you wanna get this sticking out bit as much as you can so you don't have to make a huge hill, and then that'll be visible. Yep. Okay, that's where I kinda want it. Make sure you sand around the edge too if you got any texture, just to remove any issues with putting down spackle. And next step is fiber tape. Make sure you use fiber tape and not that solid garbage. It's good for drywall seams on walls, but it's not good for patches. So patches, what it does is it lets the mud go through the cracks on the fiber and get into where you want to get it into. Now, it's a good idea to put a thin layer of mud around where you're working first, and then tacking on the fiber tape. I'm just using standard mud here. This all-purpose sheetrock stuff. So on a ceiling, I would still recommend using lightweight. Any kind of lightweight you can get. This is regular joint compound, so that's all I got. And that's what I'm using. Okay, I got my mud up, and I've lightly put this on. And what you want to do is you want to push that mesh into where your mud is. Try and get it to push through it as much as you can get it. Sometimes it won't cooperate, so you just gotta keep pushing it into the right spot. So this is gonna be your base layer of what's underneath the main part of the mud. So you're gonna be building a fairly large hill over top of this fiber tape. And this is mainly for big gaps or big changes in kind of where your gap is. So if you got a real thin gap like this, not not this spot, but this spot, well, maybe not so this spot, this is kind of a big gap, but like this spot is definitely a thin gap, so you can just put regular mud on that. This was kind of change in height, fairly decent gap, so put it where you need it. You can go ahead and put mud, additional layers of mud right over top of it. Just make sure you scrape it thin, so it's getting all the way down to that base layer, and then you're gonna have to let it dry like overnight, because this mud takes an eternity to dry. With like regular lightweight spackle, you might only have to wait, a few hours. This is like 8, 9, 10 plus hours of waiting for it to dry, because only the surface dries, and then like it traps in the moisture. Doesn't really matter how super messy it is, because it's going to be a fairly large over top. You're going to want a wider, bigger knife for your finish. But make sure you get the full end of your fiber tape so it's not sticking out. And then just, rinse, repeat until you get the whole thing done. That's all there is to it for that. So this would definitely show up in a smooth ceiling scenario, but only if you're really looking for it. This is gonna vanish because there's a texture in the ceiling, and we're gonna be repeating the texture all the way up through it. So the slight mismatch in height, it's not a big deal, but I decided to go with fiber all the way around because I wanted to give it an extra, more durable coat. Also, there was a bit of a mismatch on height in this corner too, so yep, I'll let this dry. It's gonna shrink, so don't worry about that. This stuff it shrinks, but when you use the lightweight, it shouldn't shrink, so you can build up layers a lot easier. Okay, this is ready for getting the oil-based paint coat on it, and this is what I'm using right here. If you can get the mildew-icide version, that's the best. It'll prevent any mold or mildew from spreading in these areas here. But I'm gonna give it a nice coat and then let it dry. Okay, here we go. Alright, I'm gonna do the rest of this off camera. Get the idea. I need 2 hands. Alright, painting is done and dry. The next step is this stuff. It's lightweight. So the whole point with the lightweight is that it dries faster and it doesn't shrink. And any shrinking it does, it's dried so fast you can just put another coat on really fast. So I'm going to start coating this like crazy before I go out and get foam, expanding foam for that hole, and try and get it as smooth as possible. I will show you when I'm done. Okay, so got the spackle on. It's looking good so far. Yeah, it's a bit rough, but this is the base layer, so it's going to be sanded out and more layers will be put on. This is just to give it a foundation to like put more on, but the layering is the name of the game when you have big gaps. So you just keep putting the layers on until it's smooth, and then you sand it out at the end and get that nice finish. Now this has some drawbacks, mainly that if you touch it or anybody interacts with it, mainly because it's lightweight, that it'll crumble. Or the paint put on top of it, if that's interacted with, it'll separate it from the spackle. So you'll have separated paint, but usually you need some kind of other factor to make that happen. So usually it's contact with the hands. Sometimes it's moisture or something, but it's usually physical. So on the ceiling, nobody's going to be touching this, hopefully. But it says 15 minutes on the can. That's 15 minutes with a skim coat. So this is going to take overnight. This is something you want to leave, come back, and then the subsequent coats, the ones that you put on tomorrow, those will take like 15 or so minutes to dry, and then continue. But that first coat is going to take overnight, so don't expect it to be perfect the first day. It's going to take a couple days to do this. And here's where I'm at with the bedroom. I still continuing to use the standard mud, but that's because I don't have a ton of lightweight compound. I wanted to save it for other things. So I have tons of this, so I might as well put it up there. It's a skim coat, so it's going to dry a little faster. Might be able to interact with it at the end of the day today, but I'll check it. Usually you can tell if it's ready to go if it doesn't move. Like this, like the surface is dry, but if you poke your fingers into it like it's dough, then that's not ready. But if it's hardened, sand it, put another coat. Okay, the foam has been laid. And I'm gonna wait for that to dry. It's about halfway. And just cut it out, put spackle right on top of it. Went around, since I had a can, and you can only use those once, so I went around and hit the various spots that I needed to hit with what was left. There's a couple big holes in the basement too. So if you got the stuff, the little tube clogs up as soon as you're done using it. So make sure you get every big hole you've got. It's the Loctite expanding foam, the big hole stuff that's still wet. So had a bunch of big holes. All right, we'll be back when it's done. If you can get your hands on some of this lightweight primer spackle, it's got like primer in it, so you don't have to like spot prime it when it's dry. You can just paint right on top of it, so this lets you skip a step. So, and another cool thing about this stuff is that it is ultra smooth. It's like icing on a cake. And it just goes on so well. It kind of looks like icing too. But every brand has their own version of it. This is just the DAP one. I've seen it for most brands. So check it out. All right, this is ready to go. It's very smooth. Well, it's very smooth on its own plane. From the ground, it looks really smooth. And yeah, even up here, it's looking pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this. I just have some leftover, some oil-based primer, and the kills. I'm just gonna coat it so it doesn't pop out. I mean, I'm putting a texture over it, so it's not a big deal. But the main thing here with this is that whatever is put on top of it sticks to the spackle and doesn't separate. And this stuff's really good at that, so yeah. Hi. All right, I've got a finished product here. This is a ranch in Garden City, and it is 3 bedrooms with an addition. And let me just get these lights on real quick. And this quality level is about level 2, so not super perfect on some of the texture. It's mainly patching, just basic patching. It's a little higher quality on the level 2 paint job. It's not quite a level 3 paint job. I like to call this my version of Landlord Special. It does have painted plates and reused blinds, even if they're ugly. He's unlikely to replace the very broken down, well, not entirely broken down, but very poor fans, ceiling fans. They might get some cleaning, not really sure, but the color is classic gray in eggshell with Glidden Premium. So that adds to the not so high quality aspect of it. It'll be a rental, so a lot of what's going on here is going to be the discretion of the landlord. So this was accompanied by a ceiling patching job video here, and I was gonna texture it, but we ended up going with the smooth surface because it blends in so well, and also we just didn't have the time and he didn't care. So this was wood. This was painted over with Zinsser cover stain, or no, sorry, Kills Original multiple times to get rid of the wood finish, and it came out pretty good. Now there was a patch right here, but that got blended in with the finish. So what we did is, you might notice that the floor here, this is shellac. This is to get rid of the sort of cat pee smell, or mildewy smell that was going on in the front here, this spot in particular. We really dumped it down. We still had a bunch left over. It was only a gallon. Stuff's very expensive though. Yeah, so pretty well as far as, I'll put some pictures up here, but as far as the quality before and after goes, like for instance, this room was dark purple, flat dark purple, and what a difference. I had to spray, I just used some some extra ceiling. I'll put the picture up for that too. I just sprayed ceiling paint on it to prime it, so it was easier to get this color down, so it wasn't bleeding through it. And then this room, this was the, I'll also put pictures up here. It was Nickelodeon green and orange, and holy cow. And the plates also were colored differently opposite to the walls, so it was very, I had to spray those too to make them, you know, not crazy Nickelodeon colors. But I mean, if you chip these walls, if you chip any of the paint off of this or the plates, you're gonna see that color pop through. So that's gonna be a fun surprise for any renter. Closets were rolled. We just used what was left over. This was wood. I'll also put a picture up real quick. And this was all, well, this wasn't, but all the trim around the base here was wood. And I used the Kills spray to make it accept paint. And my, what a difference. It's night and day from what it was. This had the sticker, it was like sticker, like wallpapery stuff to make it prevent, you know, water stuff. But this is wall paint. This is nothing special. It's just wall paint. May or may not survive the rigors of what's going on in the kitchen, but it's a linen closet, so it's not really, I mean, this is supposed to be a pantry, I think, just based on the way it's laid out, but there's so much. Okay, let me get to the kitchen. So, kept the wood in here, did not keep the wood in here, kept the wood in here. And the reason was because, I might have pictures of this, the trim specifically around here and here were splotched with the old paint really badly. It was ugly. It had to be covered. So I convinced the owner to do that. This was also wood, and the first suggestion that was made was, "Oh, can you clear coat it?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's gonna be ugly, and I'd have to spend an eternity sanding it." So white was the mode, and it turned out pretty good. It was a very, very quick slop job. So for what it is, it turned out pretty good. He had instead of doing a bath fitter or new bath, he came in and had someone do the bath. This is pretty bad too. You got this wood up here, which, like, is it a sauna? I don't know. Interesting choice, but this is a brand new door. Painted this, and the door that was here was completely hollowed out, and it was like you do this and it would bend like crazy. So had some guys come in and replace that. That turned out pretty damn good. I think I've showed this room a bunch of times, so yeah, turned out great. This room turned out really good as far as I can tell. There's some texture mismatch against, like, along this line here. You can kind of see it there. It's, again, as quick as possible for the least amount of cost as possible. Wonderful. So, we decided to keep the kitchen cabinets, and for cost reasons, obviously, intact. This spot right here, have part of this. This was done in the patching video too. This was all blown up because of the roof leaking, but getting it where it's at right now was monumental task. It took the entire time just to get this smoothish. Yeah, so the cabinets were not modified at all. Not a choice I would have made. They were in pretty bad shape up to about a minute ago. We just, as you can see, these are different colors, so sprayed the ones that were just bad enough, but a lot of them looked like this, but with slightly bigger white chunks taken out of them. It's good enough. It's a rental. It's in one piece. Like the ceiling bit here with the sagging drywall was, you know, it's not going to pass code, so that bugs the crap out of me. But there was also a ginormous hole right here with this, what do you call it, switch hanging out of it. And I think the plumber, because the plumbing for the kitchen is behind here, and I think the plumber came in and basically ripped the drywall out, fixed the plumbing problem, and just left it. And that's kind of characteristic of a lot of trades, so there you go. I had to deal with this stupid box here on rotten wood that doesn't have any durability left, so I had to take a Home Depot paint mixing stick and, like, you know, jerry rig a mount for it, and it was not fun. And then, you know, put a drywall patch around it, and that yeah, it's not my greatest work, such as this spot here too. Like, this was just put a piece in, blow foam it to oblivion, and a refrigerator is gonna go in front of it. So yeah, not gonna have to deal with that. It's not a super hideous now even. I mean, it, like, you'd hardly notice it unless you were looking at it. So same with the, you know, like the trim on the bottom, it didn't turn out the best as it could, but, you know, this is, again, we're working with very, very close, very low budget, as fast as we could put this down, get it done. That's the mentality here. That's why I call it landlord special. But, like, for instance, the mounting. Sure, that's not going to be the exact mounting places. It might be. I mean, who knows? But there's definitely blinds that are going to go here. So he requested I leave them there. So it makes the mounting a little easier for any blinds that are most definitely going to go here. But yeah, no, these walls were fun to do. They're very tall, so gotta get the big ladder out. And this was, you know, another one of those weird gray colors. And yeah, this is the main floor. We didn't touch the ceiling, didn't need to. I mean, could have, but didn't need to. There was a ginormous crack there, can't even see it anymore. So I blended in perfectly. I kind of like the aesthetic of this, but not in the color palette. So like the browns around it, it kind of dates it. It feels 1960s, 1970s, but with a paint job, it's pretty good. The floor is horrendous floor. This is the only floor, besides this in the bathroom, this is the only floor that's not going to be replaced. So it really needs to get cleaned, but these were probably white tiles. I don't think they're brown. I think these are actually stains. So the floor in here though, this is all going to be carpeted. So that was part of it. Get the carpet down, seal out the smell, put the carpet in. Easy peasy. Get it done. All right, on to the basement. This was surprisingly easy. Oh, I should probably mention, every single wall in this place had some kind of grease on it. So like, maybe, I think it looked like it was like a smoker thing, you know, like where the grease kind of builds up in one spot and it gets moist and then it drips down the wall. And you had these long, especially in this room, you had these really long drips all the way down the walls. And so when you roll it on, it would immediately reject all of the paint being put on it. So you'd have to rub it in to make it stick. This is with the primer, so it really didn't want to take the paint at all. It took a lot of work to get it to stick to the wall. But you definitely want to clean the walls if you can, but if it's every wall, there is the, you know, if you're trying to cheap out, if you're trying to do it real quick and real cheap, there is the option of just rubbing that paint in and making it neutralize whatever grease is on the wall. There's the hardcore option of, you know, oil bait. So the focus was mainly on quality on the main floor, and where the quality drops off is in the basement. And these walls took paint and there was no issues. Like, it looked like there were some stains on it, but it took paint. It took paint in the first coat, and then the top coat was easy. Super easy. This is the exterior, like, stain, the exterior siding stain, put on top of just plyboard. So the quality definitely dove here. The carpet is going to be replaced. You know, it's going to be sealed underneath too, or glued probably, and that'll reduce a lot of the smell. But these ceiling tiles are going to get replaced too, and these are wet actually, so that'll 100% get rid of that mildew smell. Just came in, did just a top coat on these. It was a very similar color, so turned out good enough. It's a basement. We're just slapping it on, getting it as fast as we can. More paint on the cinder block, or cinder poured concrete. This is a moldy mess. Sanded it out with mask on, and then we just sprayed the kills on it. Sprayed the kills on it. Sprayed it again, dried it. It was already dried out by the time we started, but wanted to make sure, double, triple, quadruple check to make sure that there's no black mold mildew underneath. Completely seal it out. There were some water issues down here for a minute when the roof was leaking. That's where it all ended up. But walls painted with sealer. That's poured concrete. You know, basic. Just getting all the cobwebs out was really the focus. But you know, there were some stains on the walls, so getting it into a condition to paint was all we really needed. And that's it for the inside. Going back up. Should probably mention the acrylic enamel on the exterior doors too. Should probably mention the square footage of the place as well. This is a 1,500 square foot ranch with an addition. and I really like the layout of this place. It'll be especially nice with the carpet in here, because this kitchen counter thing, just, it's nice. Like how you can look into there from the kitchen. This is where the old outside wall was. There's probably a door wall. There's probably a door wall right here. All right. I also want to touch on real quick before I do the outside. I want to show the fantastic job that the carpet guys did on this place. It looks so much better. It smells great too. And excellent choice on all parties. I'll just turn on some of these lights. Get this going. I'll just do a room by room preview here. All right, they had to take out some doors, so it's a little different, but yeah, what a difference it makes. And there's no weird bumpiness to the floor either. Bathroom's the same. And then the best part of all, man, super nice. All right, on to the outside. Okay, here we are on the outside. Just finished the deck, and we are looking at here a fresh painted siding. This is with stain, so not really painted. The paint is called Cordovan Brown by Behr. You find it at Home Depot as a premix. And I believe it's like a flat, but the texture of the wood really makes it flat. So, oops, I gotta watch out and not step on the wrong spots, but the wood was really rotten. Had to fill in a lot of the holes, but it turned out pretty good in the end. It's a top coat on another brown, so it was already pretty rough. But we're looking at a mostly finished product here with the red on this deck and all this lattice. I had to cover one side of it with canvas to hit the one side with spray. So I just sprayed most of it. And I just got to get these poles and I'm done with this deck. But yeah, looking good. I can't really walk on it because it's fresh. And this was also very rotten. So a lot of the grooves had to be filled in with brush to get it really good. But the lattice and the railings were all sprayed. They were just complicated. And not my favorite color, but it turned out great. It's a big deck too. There was also one more little tidbit that he wanted me to do. He wanted me to spray this red, and it turned out kind of okay. It's with the, what do you call them, Rust-Oleum spray cans. It's better than the rotten wood and the rusty metal that it was. So, yeah, that's it. That's where we're at with this property. Back turned out pretty good. I'd say it's maybe a B- as far as quality goes, but yeah. Hope you enjoyed. Also, big jump in quality down here. The ceiling tiles still kind of, but they took out the cruddy ones, so we're looking good. And yeah, walls look good, floor looks good. The works. Carpet back there. This is all the same. Okay. Look how they mangled my boy. What the heck? The carpet guys are really not being careful. They mangled the trim. And this is the one that was like, it was the wooden painted over, so it chipped pretty bad.